Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. Today we have 3 new stories about people and their revenge, starting with our warm-up story. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Don't mess with data date formats. I see a ton of MDY dates in Ontario businesses, since the amount of trade with the USA makes adopting their standard more convenient. My personal little protest is writing dates on forms as 13 August 2017 so there's no confusion on month, and dating files with YY-MM-DD. I once had an employer take issue with that file naming convention, and he ordered me to change it to MMDDYY. These are files that our sales and service people needed constantly and need in chronological order. Idiot manager. Change these dates to look like regular dates. Me. They sort better this way, though, and the sales and service people need idiot manager. IDGAF. Change it now. Me. Yes, sir. The change forced me to work overtime, which I recorded as time worked and was not exempt from OT, and productivity in all other departments decreased by at least 50%. The manager gave me notice, fired me, because those orders had cost his budget an extra $4,000 of overtime while changing decades of dates to a stupid date format and seriously hampered the other 2 departments. During my last week, I took all of the emails we'd exchanged, mostly about how changing the date format would be a bad idea, and all records of the work I had done, and sent them to the heads of the other departments, the CFO, COO, and CEO, just to let them know about the new date format and cascade to their teams, of course since I wouldn't be around anymore. Cue a flurry of miffed conversations between all of those executives. About a week after I'd left, I got a call from a very angry former manager about how I had cost him his job, hung up on him. A couple hours later, got a call from the COO who conferenced in the other department heads, and they offered me that manager's job after I fixed the dates back. We settled on a 10% raise on that manager's salary and another $5,000 to fix the dates. The CFO and COO greeted me upon returning and asked how long the dates would take. I asked them to wait a moment and ran a script that I had written the night prior that would change all the dates back in under an hour. I was lucky that they weren't upset and understood exactly what I had done, especially since I pointed out that I didn't need to hire someone else to do my old job, and we saved an entire salary by combining the 2 jobs. And our next story. Angry threat from management doesn't sort the desired effect. Our company decided to outsource some IT tasks to contractors. We really ought to do this in-house, but management in their infinite wisdom decided that it's cheaper to hire an outside contractor and have me deal with their messes. We have this guy, Bob, who started out pretty awesome, smart, hardworking, got stuff done. I gave him a very good report for the first couple of months and suggested we contact him for a big project we had coming up, installing new servers, configuring a DB, etc. Everything went great at first, but it was too good to last. Around 6 weeks ago, Bob started slipping. He's still billing us for the same hours, but tasks are not getting done, and when I try to follow up, he ignores my emails. I confronted him about it, but he makes excuses like, I couldn't proceed because I didn't have all the information, even though I emailed him the documentation twice and told him repeatedly to call me if he needs anything. My theory is that since Bob's business is taking off, he keeps talking about it, he's focusing on that and working on our contract way less than he's claiming. Unfortunately, I don't have the power to fire Bob, so I escalated this to management, but management doesn't want to fire Bob mid-project and find a replacement, claiming it would take too long. I pushed back. I have a pile of evidence showing that Bob repeatedly missed deadlines with no explanation for why everything is now taking 3 times as long as planned. Management, in their infinite wisdom, decided to call Bob in for a meeting, then proceeded to yell at him that, after this project is completed, we're done, and if you make a mistake, we'll sue you for damages. So I said before that Bob was smart. He's now being thoroughly compliant with every single policy we have. He doesn't do anything anymore unless he has written confirmation from multiple people. He won't as much as update the web browser if he doesn't get the okay from me, management, the CEO, technical support, and Morgan Freeman. Obviously, this means the project is pretty much ground to a halt. He'll be fired after this project, and he's paid for each week he's working on this, so he might as well make sure the project takes a long time, right? I'm PO'd because I am the one who has to deal with this huge waste of time. Edit. A lot of you seem to think that Bob is being a D. I don't completely disagree, but he might have his reasons. When I say management yelled at him, a manager literally started screaming and calling him names. It was humiliating to witness. Bob is acting unprofessional now, but so is my company. I kept thinking about it last night and wondering, is it possible that the incident I witnessed wasn't the first time management threatened Bob, and that's why he slowed down in the first place? That he wasn't slacking off, but just wanted confirmation for every step of the project because he was concerned. Knowing how dysfunctional my company can be, it doesn't sound that unlikely. And our last story. The time I got pushed out of a job. A few years ago, I got hired at a big company. Let's call it Company X. Up until then, I'd only been a research scientist working in microbiology, but I needed more money, so I took the job as a technical sales rep. I was hired to do sales and technical support for scientific research reagents. Thing is, I was hired to do sales for government and governmental institutions. The job was okay. I interacted with a lot of the country's leading scientists and built a reasonable network and some cool friendships. The county had been in crisis for a long time and getting worse every year, and my sales were becoming more difficult because the government wasn't providing public universities for adequate or any money allocations to keep science programs and faculty stocked. And as the economy crumbled further, the government's institutional labs from various sectors also started having serious problems, and almost everybody switched to Indian or Chinese chemicals, which were a lot cheaper than mine. As the months passed, I was only able to get a few big contracts and sales, even though I managed to pull a few feats that got me commended as no other sales reps had been able to do what I pulled off, and yet I got yelled at a lot for not meeting my objectives. My manager was a complete tool 100% of the time. I did a comprehensive national market study to show my assigned markets were crap and that I needed to be reassigned to a different segment, but was repeatedly told that there was an extremely high potential in the public sector, so I should be lying and go hunt and blah, blah, blah. I don't think I was a particularly excellent salesman given my lack of experience, but I think I did okay where I could. Having also the country's most expensive reagents without much flexibility also didn't help. In time, my manager became increasingly aggressive and demanding more and more ridiculous sales targets from me in the public sector month after month. This eventually turned into yelling and threats of physical violence. So yeah, F that. I looked for another job. And surprise, I quit. I immediately got a job at, let's call it Company Q, a distribution outfit that also has some production of some chemical intermediaries. Q bought some products from X. I knew them already somewhat. It was a nice, quiet, private lab situation, very comfortable, reasonable increase in pay included, so yay me. A week or so after I started at Q, the colleague from X, who was also getting pushed hard, also had enough and quit. And another sales rep was fired a few days after for some BS reason I can't remember anymore. Sketchy, but okay. I could only feel bad for them. A few days later, I was told by a friend that still worked at X that this had all been a part of a company-wide coordinated effort from the management to get rid of various sales reps from several departments because they saw that the markets were slowly decaying and would rather just have distributors do sales rather than keep paying us to try. So they used us for a few years only to update the customer database and then got rid of us. I was quite angry and had been looking for a way to screw over my old manager somehow for treating me like crap for about a year and a half. Mwahaha! I had used the private employee misbehavior reporting system to report that my ex-manager had been banging a product manager who got the job only because she was effing him. A big no-no in the employee conduct code. But the complaint got routed to the local compliance officer, and exactly nothing came of that because my manager and the officer were buddies. Bummer. But there was still hope. When I joined Company Q, I learned that they had rights of distribution of a certain industrial chemical from another company. Call it Company E. pretty much the only product this company produced in any significant amount 5 years before or so. Then came Company X at an international level and signed a global deal with E and took the distribution rights. Company E tried their best to stay with Q for local distribution in our country because Q had know-how in that market and X did not, but the contract forced the transfers to X anyway. To appease Company E, the contract stipulated that X gained control of importing but had to continue to sell the chemical to Q for distribution, hence avoiding the lack of know-how of Company X. And so it was. X imports and sells at a particular small margin to Q, and Q sells to final customer. Not a great deal, but Q management were happy they were not cut out completely and thought they only lost some of the margin. But over 5 years, they saw growing hostility from X and not much they could do about it. Seeking an alternate supplier also proved problematic because the only suppliers at that price level were only much lower quality suppliers, and high quality was important for this product. From my time at X, I knew that they were also selling the chemical directly and at sometimes lower prices than what were sold to Q, which meant the margins set were also not being honored and to any customer that came asking for it. After my complaint at the old company went nowhere, there was a website to check on the status of the complaint, I told my manager from Q all of it and that X wanted to cut them out completely, all with the best intentions, of course. That same morning, that conversation triggered a call from my manager from Q to the guy from E and told him what was up because that was not part of the deal they had agreed to when transferring distribution rights from Q to X. The guy from Company E, who'd been in business for a long time with Q in the past, seemed quite happy with this problem and asked us to get proof of this so they could trigger a non-compliance clause in the global contract. Of course, this evidence could not come from me because I could get into trouble. Manager Q sent his sales reps digging, and they came up with all sorts of copies of sales receipts, delivery notes, and quotes of the chemical from Company X, something that technically shouldn't have happened because Q retained exclusivity of final sales and the prices each paid. There was a complaint, high-level meetings, and some lawyer action, yada yada yada. After 4 months or so, this eventually led distribution rights going back to Q exclusively. The kicker? With the transfer, X lost about $1 million US in profit from the sales of this commodity alone. Q in return gained most of it, and as a result, I got a big thank you and a lot of budget to equip and re-equip my new lab. I moved to a different lab a few years ago, but I'm still in contact with my old staff. They're still kicking butt and loving one of the best equipped labs in the country. The end. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.